We begin with the developing conflict in eastern DRC. The M23 rebel group has rejected calls to disarm. Its chief negotiator says there must be talks first and that all sides must lay down their weapons. CCTV's Isabel Nakiria has more.
The M23 rebels are again pushing for talks. Last Friday, they withdrew from the front line near the eastern city of Goma and called a ceasefire. So far, their offer has been ignored. The Congolese army says the rebels must disarm first. The UN Special Envoy to the Great Lakes, Mary Robinson, has also urged the rebels to disarm. The M23 says disarmament is contentious and there must be trust on all sides.
You've been fighting with someone, then there is a declaration on the radio, then you run away, or you disarm, then they arrest you, then they kill you. Because in the past, our soldiers were killed when they integrated. For this time, we warn them when they integrate, the government side doesn't take the opportunity of killing them.
Abandi says the rebels have already demonstrated their commitment to peace by pulling back.
We were in Goma, they said leave Goma so that we can talk. And for sure, at the end of the talks, there will not be too armed. We shall finish and there will not be an armed wing of M23 anymore.
The M23's withdrawal follows some of the heaviest fighting in the region in months. UN troops went on the offensive for the first time, backing up the Congolese military. The government in Kampala is worried about the recent flare-up and potential wider damage. It's called all 11 leaders in the region for an emergency summit on Thursday. Isabel Nakiria, CCTV, Kampala.
The relationship between Sudan and her neighbor South Sudan has seen a dramatic improvement. This comes after Sudanese President Omar al-Bashir on Tuesday dropped threats to stop the transit of South Sudan's oil through Sudan. Bashir and his counterpart Salva Kiir now say they're ready to start a new chapter and further improve relations between the two nations.
At this moment, I want to confirm our commitment towards good relations and respecting the sovereignty of our neighbors, South Sudan. I also want to confirm that we respect all the agreements which were signed between us and we are devoted to implement them.
Coming to the proposals that were given by the AU HIP, it is we who should resolve them. Because on our side, from day one, we accepted the proposal. We are waiting on your side. But it is something that people can talk about. It is only for security reasons that the two forces are to be separated. That separate the forces so that people rest and they do whatever they want to do, daily activities.
In Zimbabwe, a new parliament has been sworn in. It's dominated by the ruling party following the July 31st elections. It's expected to get down to business later this month. CCTV's Farai Makatuya has more.
The spotlight is now firmly on these men and women. They are to represent the will of the voters and to debate and pass legislation. No party had an outright majority in the last parliament, which led to protracted disagreements over key pieces of legislation that were under debate. This time round, ZANU-PF has the numbers and is likely to have its way. Some fear parliament could be reduced to a mere bystander. But ZANU-PF politicians insist that's not the case.
It has never been about rubber stamping. It's even going to be even more robust in this particular parliament because there is an emergence of a very young ZANU-PF leadership that is educated, that is coming from very different backgrounds.
Manduwanzira is among the first-timers here, and for him, priorities are the economy, job creation, and investment promotion. Expectation among the voters is high. They gave ZANU-PF a clear mandate and they expect the party to deliver. This lady tells me that she is expecting the MPs to be accountable. She says she feels let down by previous MPs who were only visible at election time.
We need productive productive arguments in the parliament.
The swearing-in sets the stage for President Robert Mugabe to name his new cabinet. By law, that should be made up of elected MPs and senators. His announcement is expected later this week. Farai Mwakutuya, CCTV, Harare, Zimbabwe.
Let's now take a short break. When we come back, in the name of peace, thousands rally for peace in volatile CAR.
We follow the latest trends in global politics, economics, culture and sport, and how Africa fits into the global picture. You decide what's important.
We need a trade passport.
Africa's future will be determined by Africa.
For women's equal opportunity, for a better life.
We have to change something, and it's not the outsiders.
Talk Africa, a new voice for the world.
Welcome back to Africa Live. Now, Kenya's parliament's been recalled to debate the possibility of withdrawing its membership from the International Criminal Court. This move comes ahead of the trial of Deputy President William Ruto at The Hague next week. However, should Kenya choose to leave the ICC, the first country potentially to do so, it would not affect upcoming trials since legal proceedings have already started. A formal request for withdrawal would also need to be submitted, a process that could take several months. Ruto's trial comes 2 months ahead of that of President Uhuru Kenyatta. Both Kenyatta and Ruto have said they'll cooperate fully with the court and have denied the charges against them. Thousands of protesters in the Central African Republic rallied in the capital to call for peace in the strife-torn country. They marched through different neighborhoods before converging at the city center.
Monday's protests, called by civil society groups and youth organizations, came as Jotodia gathered former Seleka rebels and officers of the regular army to discuss the country's dire security situation.
We are very happy about the success of this event because we hope that our authorities have taken note of our demands. We ask for nothing less than peace in our country.
Widespread unrest has gripped the Central African Republic since March, when a coalition of rebel groups called Seleka deposed President Francois Bozize, who had ruled since a 2003 coup. The rebels' leader, Michael Jotodia, was sworn in as president last month, but has so far struggled to restore stability.
My brothers and sisters, I want to ask your forgiveness for each of my interventions elsewhere. When we came to power, as you know, a witch hunt did not take place. We did not do that. They are all there, and it is certain that we will work together today. In a decree during the decoration of officers, I promoted 2 of Bozize's children. My dear people, what do you want?
The president last week ordered warlords from his former rebellion to give up their fiefdoms in the capital as troops from the African Union's international support mission to Central Africa moved in to subdue armed groups that have continued to terrorize the country. The Central African Republic has been beset by reports of widespread rape, recruitment of child soldiers, weapons proliferation, huge population displacement, and severe malnutrition since the March coup. Maria Galang, CCTV.
A smartphone application which can photograph the eye's retina and carry out eye tests is on trial in Kenya. The technology promises to be a helpful tool to combat eye diseases and blindness in developing nations. The portable examination kit includes an application-based diagnosis tool and clip-on hardware to examine cataracts and retinal problems.
So in 2008, a study here was completed looking at 5,000 people, and it required a lot of expensive hospital equipment to perform the tests necessary. I started following up this study last year and thought there has to be an alternative way of doing it which makes it easier to find people and easier to transport the equipment. And so the solution that came from this was using a smartphone. If we could condense all of the expensive and cumbersome equipment into something that fits into a mobile phone, then it could transform the way we delivered eye care.
Members of the Economic Community for West African States, ECOWAS, met recently to address the threat of terrorism to the aviation industries. This was at a regional anti-terrorism conference held in Niger's capital, Niamey.
The meeting, which was attended by ECOWAS member states' top officials from the civil aviation and police departments, identified the most serious threat to aircraft as terrorism. Speaking during the conference, the head of the Peace Commission for ECOWAS, Didion Nkema, said events in North Africa had increased the dangers facing regional airlines.
With what happened in North Africa, namely the crisis in Libya, the crisis in Mali, it is found that there are ground-to-air missiles that were left in the hands of people who do not have the rights to use them. We refer to non-state actors. Otherwise, when manpads are in the hands of states, we have the assurance that it will be used in the right way. But when it is in the hands of people you do not know, then it can lead to a serious threat.
The ECOWAS Vision 2020 for the airline industry is to develop an air transportation system that is consistent, safe, efficient and easily accessible to people in most parts of West Africa. But to achieve this, ECOWAS has to fight terrorism threats. Insecurity notably affects tourism and trade in countries like Mali and Nigeria.
Civil aviation has always been against the use of unlawful interference. Civil aviation is one of the safest means, and that is why we are all the time trying to work out to fight against the use of unlawful interference, because aviation is still an important economic factor for states, and so we must fight terrorism to protect our economy.
The conference is expected to help strengthen the capacity of the authorities responsible for civil aviation, as well as improve the abilities of member states to deal with the threat of terrorism. Peter Wakaba, CCTV.
Now let's get the latest from business with Ramanyan.